I just want to talk a bit about the metoo movement and its representation in the media. There's no doubt that men have the capacity to be both good and bad, and women as well. But the interesting thing about this movement is that it takes the bad actions of some men and connects them all together in a way that makes implications about all men. Now, I've got here, as you look at these images that come before you, evidence of both the good and bad of both men and women. These are all over the past few months, things I just quickly Googled. I found quite a lot of rescue stories of men risking and even losing their lives to help others. There are obviously stories of alleged sexual harassment of varying degrees. But there was also stories of women being involved in those sorts of things as well. There was one rescue for a woman, and there was multiple rescues for men. So there's evidence of both men and women doing good deeds and bad ones. But, we don't connect together all the bad things women do and say there's a problem with women the way we connect together the bad things men have done and say there's a problem with men. I think this is a really dangerous thing to do because it's taking a general rule and applying it to everyone. I think that one of the problems with this is the self-esteem it may have on boys and young men, and it presents only things to avoid. It doesn't offer them a pathway forward. In other words, it's not saying here's a positive role model, here's what you can do to be good. It's saying, these are the bad things men do. And that's not really going to help boys' self-esteem. And we know that there's a problem with boys' self-esteem because of the high rates of suicide. Now, I think we need to be looking at how we can address these behaviours in a positive way and acknowledging the positive role models and contributions that men make. Now, clearly these rescue stories make it into the press quite frequently, but they tend to only last a day and they're disconnected, whereas I've noticed in the press, the media loves this Me Too campaign. They've really hyped it up. They make a fortune out of it. A story of harassment will sit there for maybe a week, maybe more, maybe multiple weeks. And there'll be multiple stories running concurrently. So I think there's a problem with this approach. And I think the media is driving this. Clearly some women have had horrific experiences, and you'll see here evidence of men that have had horrific experiences. But, the men's stories appear maybe for a day. The guy that got beaten up in the pub by a bunch of thugs, that disappeared, that the next day. But the women's stories just go on and on and on. Now, I don't want to deny that there are these things happening, and I don't want to deny that something needs to be done about it in these cases. But something needs to be done about all criminality. The guy who got bashed in the pub, that needs to be addressed. The sexual harassment, that needs to be addressed. But the implication you get from the press is that sexual harassment is rife and happening throughout all our workplaces. And that's just not true, certainly not at the level of the Weinstein sorts of allegations. So it's painting, I think, a tainted picture of reality. And the implications, as I say, that has on raising boys and making them feel good about themselves and make a positive contribution to society, I think is something that really needs to be looked at and addressed. It's one thing to seek redress for problems, but it's another thing to cause other problems or further problems in the way you're seeking that redress. So I might have some more to say on this, but I think that's probably enough for now. Thank you.